Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fourth instalment of the mid-development sessions in our series so far. Just while we're waiting for everyone to join, I'll just do a quick introduction. So I'm Alex, and I'm part of the MCS operations team, and a big part of our role is managing and updating the MCS Installation Database, or the MID as we call it for short. So for those of you who are new to these mid-development webinars, so there are a series of course, webinars that we're running every 2 weeks, every Wednesday, covering everything there is to know about how to use the MID. And we'll also be using these webinars as an opportunity and platform to provide previews of any new MID updates, just so we're giving installers the heads up really with respect to any major MID changes. If anyone's missed the previous 3 webinars, recordings of those are now available on the MCS YouTube channel, so please go check them out and catch up. For today's session, we'll be providing a general overview of some of the areas on the installer MID account, covering various aspects that we just always seem to get a lot of questions about really. So hopefully this will be helpful for those installers who are new to the scheme and aren't that familiar with the MID, as well as those installers who've been members for a while but maybe just want some additional sort of MID training and support. Just to add as well, please feel free to put any comments in the chat and ask any questions by selecting the Ask a Question button. These questions can be anything to do with the MID, so please don't be afraid to ask anything. And then if there are any questions, I'll go through those at the end in like a Q&A session. If not, we'll just cut the webinar there. Any questions we do get as well, I'll go through the answers in the webinar, provided that I know the answers, but we provide written responses of them in like a Your Questions Answered summary as well. So these will be sent out in like an email e-shot to all attendees, so you've got the answers written down there. So just to kick off today's session, I'll just share my screen to show the MID installer test account to do the demonstration, so just bear with me. Okay, so hopefully everyone should be able to see that now. So this is a MID installer test account. So this is what all of you should see when you log on to the MID. Might be a few differences just because it's a test account. So this is the home page, and the first area we're going to go through is the installations tab. So you can access that from here or up here at the tab at the top. So the installations tab, most of you probably know, is where all your installation certificates are stored. So the minute that you begin an installation certificate and that process, it will be stored here. So there's various bits of information stored for each certificate. So you've got the certificate number, which you'll notice will only be assigned once you've created and completed a certificate. You've got the address and postcode details, technology, installer, which will always be, of course, your installer account, date installed, which is the commissioning date, and you can sort of sort that by like oldest to newest if you'd like. Statuses, so there's 4 different statuses now associated with the certificate, so I'll just quickly go through what they mean. So created means that you've completed the certificate, you've paid for it, it's generated, it's got a certificate number. In progress, so for example these certificates, that essentially means you've started the certificate creation process, but you haven't yet finished it. And you'll notice on the in progress certificates, on the delete column, you've got these sort of bin icons. If you click those, that will delete the certificate, but if you wanted to finish a certificate, you just need to click edit and go through the rest of the certificate, get to where you're up to and complete it. Another status now is in basket. I don't know if there's any here now because it doesn't look like there's any in the basket, but if the status says in basket, it means that you've now completed the certificate and it's just sat in the basket waiting for payment. Another status would be withdrawn, so that would relate to if an installation certificate's been withdrawn. So for example, you might have made a certificate by mistake and you need that withdrawing off the system. Another few things to add, you've got these buttons here to download the certificate. So if you click those, it will download there. The compliance column, this relates to the heating certificate, so heat pumps, biomass, solar thermal. You can download that from there as well. Another sort of feature as well is you'll see these little arrows next to the sort of pencil button. So if you click that, that will actually show the product details on the certificate. So that might be useful, for example, if you just didn't want to download the certificate and you wanted to see exactly what products are on there. Another thing to touch on is the filter. So of course, a lot of our installers have many installations. So if you wanted to find a specific certificate or a certain group of certificates, this is where the filters come in handy. So for example, you can search by certificate number, click filter. Just another thing to be wary of as well, just make sure there's no spaces on either side, because you'll notice that the certificate won't appear then, so just be a bit wary of that. Yeah, you can filter by technology, or you can set that as all. And then you can also filter by commissioning date. So it's none for that date, but you see what I mean. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the installations tab, but sort of staying on this area. Another thing we wanted to just run through is what you'd do if you were going to edit a certificate. So for example, you might have created a certificate and then perhaps you realise the postcode's wrong, or you've added the wrong product, or something like that. So what you need to do is you pick the relevant certificate. So I'm just going to pick a random one, and you click the pencil on the edit column. And then I'll just quickly run through what you can and can't amend. So you can amend most of the information on the certificate, just with a few exceptions. So you'll see on this first page here, you can't amend anything. So that includes the installation type, the technology type, and the overall cost of the installation, as well as the consumer email address if you'd opted to put that in. So when you actually are creating certificates and when you've entered this information, there is sort of like a disclaimer box saying, like, you know, check what you've done, because you can't amend this at a later date. If it comes to the point where you've realised you've made a mistake, for example, with the installation type or the cost, please get in touch with our help desk, just because we as administrators do have the means to be able to amend that information. So just get in touch and we can do that for you. The only thing we can't amend is technology type, but it's very rare that anyone would get the technology type wrong anyway. You can't amend the compliance certificate either. So as most of you will know, you upload that compliance certificate as like a template. But if you did realise that you got some information wrong on that compliance certificate, what you can do is click edit, go to that compliance certificate stage, and you would have to upload a new compliance certificate to replace the one that's on there, and then you click save, etc. So I'll just go through. Another thing as well, you can change the commissioning date, but there are some rules associated with that, and you need to request access for that. So I'll be going through that in a sec, that process. So yeah, let's pretend that this should be the postcode. You'd amend it on this page, and then you would need to save what you've done. So always remember to click this finish, make and update button to save what you've done. There is this save and exit button, you may notice, but to be honest, it doesn't really do what it says on the tin. So if you were going to click save and exit, it would update sort of like the back end of the certificate on the edit page, but it wouldn't update the actual the certificate, the PDF. We are looking on changing the wording on that button, just because we understand it can be misleading. So you will click finish, make an update. It'll say, are you sure? By clicking yes, your certificate will be updated and given a new version number. So yeah, that's correct. The certificate number, version number will update. So if this was version 1, it would now be version 2 after the update, and the issue date on the certificate will also update. So it will now be the date that you've made the amendment rather than the date that you created the certificate. So I'll click yes. And then you'll be taken to this update certificate page, and you'll have the option to download the certificate, and it will appear down there. And then you'll just need to send the updated version to the customer. So going back to what I mentioned with the amending the commissioning date. So we call this extended access. So if you ever hear anyone from our team saying extended access, it just relates to amending the commissioning date. So there's two scenarios with extended access. So first scenario is that you've created a certificate maybe a few weeks ago, and then maybe you're alerted by the consumer that the commissioning date is incorrect, and of course you need to request access to be able to amend that. The other scenario would be that you're creating the certificate outside of the 14-day commissioning window. So this got touched on last week, and there was a few questions around the fact, why is this commissioning window 14 days? And to be honest, Tim on our team explained that it's just an arbitrary figure that's kind of been in the MCS standards since inception, really. I guess it's kind of in there because we want to always make sure the consumers get the certificate, but we can understand that it can be restrictive because of course installers are busy and maybe they might want to do a lot of their admin at the end of the month. So we may look on extending that commissioning window period just so it's better for installers, really. So I'll just run through both scenarios now. So I'll just click on any certificate again. I'll just go on a different one. Okay. So yeah, you will click edit, and then when you get to step 3, you'll notice that you can't do anything to the commissioning date because it's greyed out. But what you will see is this edit date button. So if you click that edit date button, a reason for edit requests box will pop up, and then you'll need to click on this please select drop down menu. So there'll be 2 options here. I need to change the commissioning date or I need to generate a certificate after the 10-day window. So I need to change the commissioning date would apply in this scenario. Click that and click make request. And then you'll notice that this then changes to edit request pending. What happens then is a notification is sent to your installer certification body that you're a member of. They'll then get in touch with you, probably asking for various bits of evidence like commissioning documents with the correct commissioning date. They'll then review all the evidence, and when they feel that they've got sufficient evidence to be able to approve that request, they'll then go onto the MID on this specific certificate. They'll click approve. When they've approved, they'll then just need to inform you and let you know that you've got 24 hours to amend that date to whatever it needs to be. If you do end up missing that 24-hour sort of deadline for whatever reason, it's not the end of the world. It's just that you're going to have to end up going through this whole edit date request process again. It just prolongs everything, so just always try and meet that deadline. So the other scenario would be, like I said earlier, you're raising a certificate outside of the 14-day, 10 working day window. So this, again, similar process, it's just slightly different. So in this case, what you'd need to do is create the certificate as normal. And then on the commissioning date section, what you'd need to do is enter a temporary false commissioning date, and this temporary false commissioning date would need to be set as 2 weeks prior to the day that you're creating the certificate. So for example, if I was creating a certificate on the 14th of May, I'd need to make sure that that commissioning date would be the 1st of May. So then you complete the rest of the certificate as normal, and then you would pay for it, generate it, and then you'd need to wait 24 hours. After that 24-hour period, you'd need to go onto the MID again, click edit on that certificate again, and then it will be this whole edit date process again. But in this scenario, you just need to select the other edit reason option, and again, same process as described before. Notification gets sent to certification body gets in touch with you, you send evidence, and then ultimately when it gets approved, you've got that 24-hour period to be able to amend it to whatever it needs to be, and then you can send the correct certificate with the correct date over to the consumer. So yeah, it's relatively straightforward. I think there is a lot of confusion sometimes as to why that edit date button sometimes doesn't appear, so just always remember you need to set the date back 2 weeks prior, and then you need to wait that 24-hour period. So that is pretty much it for the installations tab. Just bear with me because I just need to switch to another account to show the other section. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that now. So the other section we quickly wanted to run through was is the users section. So I'll just go to the home page again. So users will be here or here. Just to note as well, not all installer accounts have access to the users tab because there's two different types of installer accounts. There's master installers and just standard installer accounts. So I'll go through them in a second. So if you go to users, the users tab essentially lists all the users associated with your MID account. So there's two types of users. You've got master installer, which is this installer MAU user type. And then you've also got installer. So only master installers account can see the users tab. They just have more visibility, I guess. So they also have the power to like add users, manage their other users, you know, amend details and things like that. So as you can see, these are just some test emails. So say that you wanted to amend an email because there was an error, or you wanted to amend someone's name, you could click save. You can also send reset passwords if one of your users had, you know, forgot the password. You can also suspend users. So I don't know whether that might be helpful if maybe one of your team leaves the company and you just want to sort of close their account. Add new users. So you can add a new user to your account. So you could either set them as an installer or a master installer. You can have multiple of each. You can't just, it doesn't have to just be one master installer, by the way. So if I just do another, you click save, and then that would appear. And then the other thing, most installers probably don't have a lot of users, but if you did, you can also use these filters as well. Forename, surname, email, if you wanted to find a specific user. So that's pretty much it for the users tab then. Like I said, a basic overview, but hopefully be helpful for those of you who aren't that used to the MID. And then the final section we wanted to run through is just the reports tab. So you can access reports from here or here. So a lot of installers might not be aware of this, or maybe just don't know sort of what it's used for. So the only report available at the moment is the installations report. And what the installations report allows you to do is pull off certificate information in like Excel format. So you could pull off all certificates, or maybe if you just ever wanted to pull off certificates for a certain technology because you wanted to look at data, this might be helpful. So technology type, you can refine by whatever that needs to be. You could also, for example, if you just wanted to look at the information on one certificate, you could just put that certificate number in there. Installed between, if you just wanted to look at installations commissioned in a certain period, or created between. So yeah, when you've done your filters, or whether you don't want to use any filters, you'd then click generate report. That will then generate fairly quickly, depending on how many installations, and then that will appear down here, and then you'll be able to download that. And then in that report, each column will relate to sort of each field on the certificate. So yeah, hopefully might be useful to some. So that was pretty much it for the demonstration. Like I said, we just wanted to give like a general overview and just tips and support that were hopefully helpful. So by the looks of it, there doesn't seem to be any questions. If anyone does have any, please feel free to ask now. In terms of the next webinar then, that will be held 2 weeks from today on the 19th. And that webinar is kind of going to be an extension to the heat pump creation certificate that Tim did 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be to do with heat pump compliance certificates, how you complete those, and how you would upload those to the MID. So if that will be useful, you know, definitely look out for that. I've just seen a question come through. Okay, yeah, we've got a question from Alex saying, when you buy bulk certificates, is there a way these can all go to one place to download without filtering all certificates? Yeah, we've had a bit of feedback on that actually, and we are looking at implementing something like that, because with the basket, of course, that's really helpful for bulk buying and things like that. But you are right, when you purchase all of those, they just automatically go to the installations tab. There isn't like a page at the end where you can download them all. So we're possibly looking at introducing something where at the end, after you've purchased all those certificates in the basket, maybe the download in a zip file, and then we might add some extra filters on the installations tab, just if it's easier. Maybe like a filter by like created by, so you can kind of look at the ones that you've created most recently. So we will update that. Right, another question from Alex again. Any update on introducing credits again rather than basket? So no update as of yet. We are planning on doing that. We've got a few developments in the pipeline, and introducing credits again is one of them. So when that's sort of near to launch, we'll make sure we release plenty of comms just so everyone's aware of that. So yeah, thanks everyone. If that's it, we'll leave that there. Thanks for attending. I hope the information was helpful, and hopefully we will see you again for the webinar in 2 weeks. Thank you.